This is a documentary about police misconduct and the deaths of innocent Americans by police. Warning: explicit content, viewer discretion advised.
I'm not going to get stupid. You said we were walking out again, now you're bringing up assault and everybody's going to get hurt again? All right, don't change up your agreement. I'm going to try to walk with you. All right. Local, try to arm me. Your word. Keep you safe. All right? Don't worry about safety. I'm not a fucking murderer. All right? Try to harm me. Try to harm you. All right?
Do it.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground now! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Don't make fun. Put up! Move it up! Get your hands up! Still got the knives in his hand? Still got the knives in his hand. Still got the knives in his hand. Step up behind you. You moving? His hands, he's still armed. Yep. Get your hands out. Get your hands out. Lean back. Right behind you. Put your hands out to your side and drop the knife. Hands out to your side. Beanbag, beanbag. Drop the knife. Drop the knife. Drop the knife. Still got the knife in it? Negative effect. Still got guard on him? I can do him on him. Yeah, I don't want that knife in his head. All right, he's good. Somebody step on that right hand real hard. He's got a knife in each hand. Knife in each hand. Knife in each hand. Rex, close. I got left. Good. I'm gonna switch you. All right. Good. You got lethal right there? Yes, I have lethal.
EPD's new chief says the police shooting that killed a homeless man in the foothills is justified. The video shows the suspect turning away as officers fire.
Officers Keith Sandy and Dominic Perez on the left fired their rifles 3 times, but he called the shooting justified.
The video is disturbing and graphic. The controversy is growing. This is the story we first brought you last night. The Albuquerque police shooting death of a mentally ill homeless man. James Boyd, the victim, was illegally camping and refused orders to surrender by police officers. Boyd died soon after. The Justice Department is investigating. The mayor calls the incident horrific. And today, protesters took to the streets there saying excessive force was used.
The protesters who were out here earlier this evening say that their anger is demonstrated in the video you just saw, the reason for their anger. They say that Boyd appeared to be turning away from officers when they fired those 6 rounds at him.
Now, there are still a lot of unanswered questions surrounding the shooting. Albuquerque police would not say if one or both officers' bullets hit the suspect or how many times he was hit. Keith Sandy, the officer who fired first, does have a storied past. We told you on special assignment earlier this week how Sandy was fired from state police for time card fraud. He was facing possible criminal charges for doing private security work while on the clock. In 2007, he was hired on by APD anyway. Back then, the department told us he would not carry a gun or have a badge. But as you can see, that obviously did not stick.
I'm shocked. I've never seen a murder captured on videotape before. I've never seen anything quite like this.
Peter Simonson of the ACLU says the current federal investigation of APD needs to include this case.
Was there another way to approach this whole situation that didn't have to result in someone dying? We need a trustworthy investigation of incidents like this.
Got a knife. What the fuck? Holy shit. That's unnecessary.
This civilian was shot in the back while running away. The police did want to chase him.
Hands up! Hands up, Ernie! Don't you move! Ernie, don't you move! I will shoot you! Hands up! Now! Drop the knife down! Shots fired! Shots fired! On the ground now! On the ground! Get back now! Three at him. Shots fired. Suspect armed with a knife. Stay in control. Get back now! Get back now! Get back now! Get back now! Hands up! Hands up! Get the fucking ambulance! Get back! Get back! 3-1 roll mix, go to the top of the stage. Towers and north or north. Get the fucking ambulance! Get back now! Get back now! Get away from here! Watch him all. I got it. We're gonna clear the vehicle. Get back now! Get back! Get back! Get back now! Get out of the vehicle. Now! Here. Come on.
An officer's final warning before a deadly confrontation.
A suspect killed on camera.
I will always remember his cries as he was dying.
Family now fighting back as the DA rules this is a justified shooting. Good evening, I'm Tony Lopez.
And I'm Shannon Brady. As we have live team coverage of this dash cam video, Steve Large with how a former sheriff is defending the officer's actions.
But we start with Maria Medina. She's live in Manteca with why the suspect's family calls this cold-blooded murder.
And this would start off as a domestic disturbance call. Officers say they were warned the suspect would have a knife. What would happen next was caught on camera. And a warning to our viewers, what you're about to see and hear is disturbing.
Hands up! Now! Drop the knife down! Shots fired! Shots fired!
It is the last moments of a man's life caught on Manteca Police dash cam. But for Whitney Dueñez, it was her reality.
Get back now!
I'm heartbroken.
Was it justified?
To me, no.
The attorney who represents the Dueñez family posted the video on YouTube after the San Joaquin District Attorney ruled the shooting justified.
By releasing this video and putting it out there to the public, they see what we have seen, not what the DA has written.
The video shows the officer warning Ernest Dueñez Jr. he would shoot. An investigation found Dueñez had a knife in his hand.
In the video, I do not see a weapon.
Dueñez's mother says the video proves he wasn't carrying a knife. It does show Ernest turning toward the truck. Investigators say he reached forward. That's when the officer started firing. Whitney would find her husband shot 11 times. He was still alive when she kept yelling for officers to call an ambulance, a moment that she can't stop from replaying in her mind.
That will always be in me. I will always remember his cries as he was dying.
And officers say they would find that 4-inch knife in the back of the pickup. Whitney has since moved from their home. She says their son turned 1 just 2 weeks after his death.
Maria, thanks for that.
Oh.
Hey! 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 Put the knife down! Put the knife down! Put the knife down! David 33, shots fired, born LL. Subject wouldn't drop a knife.
Okay, bud? So there's under control and fires and routes. Anybody else?
5-4 driver. Slow down, please.
Hey! Under control, Jordan, how are you? Slow down.
At the border, how well?
Good. You, hold on, guys. Sit over here. Get the single file. Go up together, all right? He's the designated shooter. He's already shot him. Right. We get a PB. Get behind me. Let's move up. Ready? We're going to move up, all right, Dave?
David 0, we've got traffic shut off on Bourne at Stewart.
Bourne Stewart, traffic shut down.
Heartbroken and furious, family members demanding answers after their relative is shot and killed by police. Long Beach police say they were forced to open fire on the man, all because of what he was holding in his hands.
My brother was a person. He was my parents' son. He was a father. He was our brother. You know, this is a real human being.
A sister is heartbroken tonight over the death of her brother, 35-year-old Doug Zerbe. Long Beach police shot and killed Zerbe Sunday evening. Authorities say they thought the water nozzle he was holding was a gun. And so when he pointed it in their direction, they unleashed a hail of bullets.
I believe 2 rounds from a shotgun, and I believe, and 2, and
police acknowledged they never asked Zerbe to drop what they thought was a gun or spoke to him in any way.
He at least deserved to be told, put your hands where we can see them. Place the object down. You know, 2 seconds of conversing.
Tonight, 9 News Now has uncovered new information on a deadly police shooting in Culpeper. An eyewitness now contradicting the police version of yesterday's confrontation in a Catholic school parking lot that ended with the death of 54-year-old Patricia Cook.
An eyewitness here in Culpeper is contradicting what state police are saying about the investigation and why the Culpeper police officer fired at a Sunday school teacher.
He had his hand on the door handle, one hand here and one hand, I remember distinctly because his hands were real close together.
Chris Buchel says he saw a Culpeper town police officer shoot 54-year-old Patricia Cook to death in this church parking lot yesterday morning. Cook was in her Jeep Wrangler. State police say Cook rolled up the window, catching the officer's arm inside, and then dragged him. Buchel says it didn't happen that way.
He was right next to the vehicle. He had one hand on the door handle and one hand on his weapon. And she was rolling the window up, and they were exiting out of the parking lot. The window was halfway up. He said, "Stop or I'll shoot." And I really didn't think he was going to do it. But she got the window all the way up, and that's when he shot. And then she took it left out of the parking lot here. and he stepped out in the street and fired 5 more times.
Bushell says the officer was not dragged. He says he couldn't have had his arm caught because he fired through the glass. Cook's husband doesn't understand why an officer would shoot his unarmed wife multiple times.
Tonight, a man shot and killed by a Lake County deputy in a moment of chaos. New tonight, we've learned that deputies did not identify themselves before shooting and killing a man inside his own home.
Chase, what did the Lake County Sheriff's Office have to say about this tonight?
Well, Tracy, first off, they're saying that if this man did not open the door with a gun in his hands, that they never would have pulled the trigger. Still, the Sheriff's Office now says that they did not announce who they were when they were knocking on that man's door because they say they were looking for a very dangerous man and they did not want to scare him off. Now, this community wants to know why deputies did not identify themselves before knocking.
Well, 30-year-old Dustin Theo Harris lies in a hospital bed recovering from his 12th operation. King County is grappling with why no one was held accountable for putting him there.
He was lying in bed. He wasn't reaching for a weapon. 2 people barged into his room and 10 seconds later were unloading 16 bullets into his body.
The shooters were Department of Corrections Officer Chris Rongan and King County Deputy Aaron Thompson. Deputy Thompson refused to be interviewed right away, instead giving a written statement a month later. And we just got a statement from the Department of Corrections saying, in response to that $20 million claim, they feel their officer used appropriate force in a dangerous situation.
Anger and impatience growing tonight in Saginaw, Michigan over the fatal shooting of a man by police officers. The shooting was caught on amateur video, and we're going to play it for you. And I have to warn you, it's very graphic. But we're going to show this video because it reveals how police handled what has become a controversial case and a major issue in Saginaw. Some residents are disturbed by how the man was killed. At least 30 shots were fired at him. They're also demanding to know why the investigation is taking so long.
This amateur video, purchased by CNN and not made public until now, captured the confrontation between 6 Saginaw police officers and Milton Hall, a 49-year-old man who his family says suffered from serious mental health issues. Hall, seen in the middle of your screen, police say, had just had a run-in with a convenience store clerk. He was in a standoff with police and holding some sort of knife. A female officer is heard shouting. If you listen carefully, Hall is then heard continuing to yell at police. Hall seems agitated, but not intimidated by a police dog. Then, as Hall appears to take a few steps, everything comes to a head. Local media report 46 shots were fired. CNN counted the sounds of at least 30 shots on the videotape. Anthony Barber witnessed the shooting.
All of a sudden, pow, 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 and he drops. You know, pow, 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 pow.
Members of the community have voiced outraged about the Hall shooting, not satisfied with the police investigation into the officer's response.
I'm stunned that 6 human beings will stand in front of 1 human being and fire 46 shots. I just don't understand that. It appeared to be a firing squad dressed in police uniforms.
We showed the video of the shooting to City Councilman Norman Braddock.
I can see why people are traumatized at looking at something like that. And we need answers.
You can hear the gunshots on this video recorded by a tourist. 2 officers fired a total of 3 shots at 35-year-old Glenn Broadnax of Brooklyn Friday night because they thought he had a weapon. But the officers missed their target and instead hit 2 bystanders, wounding a 54-year-old in the right knee and grazing a 35-year-old woman. Eventually, cops used a taser to subdue Broadnax. Jeff Mielek, who's visiting from Texas and is in New York City on his honeymoon, was standing nearby with a camera and recorded it all. He says Broadnax looked mentally unstable. Police sources tell Eyewitness News that Broadnax told officers his dead relatives were talking to him and that he was off his medication.
Got the knife. Hold on. I got it. Spring 422, start 4355. You guys all right? Yeah, we're good. It's all good. Give me his arm. Give me his arm. He's shot! Yeah.
Offender is shot multiple times, start 4355, reference a 30-year-old male, conscious and breathing, bleeding. Northeastern and Wyoming, right at the light on the west side.
Shane Sherrill didn't look his best while appearing before a judge Friday. He was in a wheelchair, his leg and arm both in a cast, his demeanor slow and confused. For the past month and a half, Sherrill has been under police supervision at the University of New Mexico Hospital, recovering from a police-involved shooting when officers fired multiple rounds into his body. It took police more than a month after the shooting to charge Sherrill with aggravated assault on a police officer with a deadly weapon.
It is my determination, sir, that the 48-hour rule for probable cause determination has been violated.
And Sherrill's aggravated assault charge is now dismissed.
So 23 people in 4 years. There have been 23 police shootings there.
The Albuquerque Police Department has not admitted wrongdoing in any of those previous police shootings, and that's despite the city here paying close to $26 million in settlements to the families of the deceased.
Hey! I got it over here. Go! Show me your fucking hands! I did. You hit me. Show your fucking hands! Put your hands out! Put your hands out! Put your hands out! I'm in. Do it! Put your hands out! I don't care. Put your hands out! Put your hands out! Can you see his hands? I can't see his right hand. Put your hands out! Put the other one out!
Clearly, he is desperately trying to run from law enforcement to the point where he's putting everybody's lives in danger that he might come across. There you see Air 7 HD following from behind, trying to get the latest information. He has all the treads on that side of the vehicle, so apparently only the tread on one tire has gone out. Scott?
PCH, the suspect has got out of his vehicle. He's now running. Boy, it looks like the shots fired, it appears. Pull out, Mike, pull out. Pull out, Mike. We're not certain exactly what took place there, folks. We don't know if the suspect had a gun, if he was hit with a non-lethal. Shots were fired, it appears. The windows were blown out.
We have waited months to see this video. APD says it proves that an officer acted appropriately.
Let me see your hands now! Let me see your hands now, dude! Let me see them! Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands, bro! Let me see your hands!
Officer Brian Pitzer is in a foot chase with Joaquin Ortega, who has a gun. The officer opens fire.
Shot fire.
Not only does it take you up close, it proves that Ortega truly did, in fact, have a gun. Now, we've slowed this down a bit, but you can see that this is the gun right here that Ortega has tossed over his head.
Interim Chief Alan Banks did not want to show reporters this video.
Am I going to show what?
No, I'm not.
In fact, he was combative about it.
I am now the chief of police for this department, and I have the way that I'm going to do things my way.
All he'd show us was one still frame of that video, but we learned from him that Ortega never pointed that gun at officers. Again, in slow motion, Ortega lobs it back over his head. Now that we have the whole video, we know Ortega indeed had a gun, but we also know he was running away from officers when they tried to stop him.
Put your hands up.
EPD says its officer was in the right to wound a man who was trying to evade the law.
Paramedics are coming and they're gonna...
No!
They gotta check you, buddy.
25-year-old Michael Allen died inside of this truck after police say he tried to speed away from a patrol officer last August.
He didn't deserve the death sentence. Patrick Tudor was not judge and jury, and that's what he made himself out to be.
On August 31st, Tudor shot as many as 41 bullets at Michael Allen after cornering him during a police chase.
I don't want any other families to feel what me and Stephanie and that little baby girl feels every day.
Look. He says I'm there. Oh, he's pretty. I don't care. There you go. There you go. They said that rubber bullets had it. Woo! Yeah, that shit hurt, doesn't it? Right. You shoot him.
Wow. Are you kidding me? You just got that on camera. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Fucked him up. He'll be beat up. He'll be fine though. Go get him. Why are they laying there? Are they waiting for something like an okay?
Why aren't they bringing him? Why don't they have someone there? Why don't they have someone there helping him? They should have they should have known to have a paramedic. I was out there, guys. All right, move on. They should have known.
Another fine day in Long Beach.
Yeah, everyone can see blood. How are they going to treat him now? Yeah, we see more on him.
We got blood wounds. We got blood wounds.
You don't know he's not going to fight.
Mayor R.J. Berry this afternoon said Chief Gordon Eden made a mistake when the chief told reporters Friday that the fatal shooting of a homeless camper by 2 APD officers was justified.
Mayor R.J. Berry says Albuquerque Police Chief Gordon Eden spoke too soon last Friday.
I think Chief made a mistake when he's at the press conference and he was asked an honest question about what he thought was it justified or not. I think he gave an honest response, but I think that was a mistake.
Chief Eden says he regrets calling the shooting of a homeless camper in the foothills justified. Eden also says he supports the mayor's decision in forwarding the shooting case to the Department of Justice for review. The 2 officers involved in the shooting, Dominique Perez and Keith Sandy, have been put on standard paid leave but will be put on desk duty sometime this week.
I think a lot of people in our community are pretty saddened by what appears to be a continuing pattern of very troublesome and concerning shootings by our local police department.
We're not anti-police. We're here for the police department. We're here to help our police get get it right.
Preservation of life is paramount, that every alternative should be used, that police officers can protect themselves but should not unnecessarily endanger people. You can simultaneously preserve the life of people no matter what their status in life is and also protect police officers.
No one denies that being a police officer is a hard job. We need to make sure that we're providing the training and support necessary to stop these kind of instances and tragedies from ever happening again. You know, as someone who's not trained in law enforcement and is, you know, both a senator and just a resident of this city, it seemed pretty knee-jerk to me. And I think in situations like this, what we don't need are knee-jerk reactions. We need to take an honest, hard look at ourselves.